adding that as a key value here for our church. Missions is another one of our high values, and we're intentional about that. We have a unique way of welcoming mission teams back to church for their presentations. If you've been on a mission trip with First Baptist Church, I'd ask you to take your place along either side of the center aisle, and our mission team is in the back, and they're going to come down to the front. We're going to give them a First Baptist Church welcome. Since the year 2000, we've had more than 30 teams go to many places around the country and around the world. And we're excited for this opportunity to welcome our Michigan mission team from Camp Ao-Wa-Kiya. Let's give them a welcome this morning. Come on ahead.
All right. Give us a second while we get some chairs out. It was a great week. Camp Ao-Wa-Kiya is how you say it for those of you that have not attended. This is the camp that I grew up going to. Honestly, it's sort of like I was born into it. I grew up there going for service weekends. Every Memorial weekend from when I can remember through leaving for college, I spent it at this camp, cleaning it, organizing it, building stuff there. And then I think going into second grade is the first year you get to go to kids camp. So I went there all through kids camp. When I finally got old enough to go back as a counselor, I started going a week or two extra as a junior counselor, and then I got old enough to go as a senior counselor. The last time I got to go, I was working. I was just after my freshman year of college. I was doing flat work concrete for the summer, and the guys were like, hey, we're a little slow. We're going to take off the week of 4th of July. That was on Friday, so Friday night I get back to my house, and I was like, what am I going to do with this week off? I'm going to go to Ao-Wa-Kiya. So I called up and asked, hey, is there any position you need? And I was familiar with the camp director. Him and I were good friends. And he's like, well, I don't need any more counselors, which is what I'd always done. But he's like, you want to be the janitor? I said, yes, sir, and headed off right there. So that was the last time I got to be up at Ao-Wa-Kiya on staff. I was 19 years old. Last summer was the first time I got to be back there since that time. I'll let you do the math on the date, but it was a ton of fun to be able to bring people from this congregation that I love so much and share this place that has such a large impact on my own spiritual growth. So what we're going to do is just share a little bit about our own experiences there this week, and we'll start with Larry down here and work through that.
Start with Julie because she's going to talk about the book.
Perfect. We're not going to start with Larry.
Okay, I'm Julie Pope, and this is my fourth domestic mission trip that I went with the church on. Second time I went to Ao-Wa-Kiya. Before we went, we did a book study over a book called Practicing the Presence of God, and it was about Brother Lawrence, and he was a man that decided to follow God and go live in a monastery, and he thought he was going to be this great, powerful leader, and he ended up working in the kitchen. So it was great to read that book before we went because most of us, we were just workers behind the scenes. We weren't the counselors. We weren't out there in front of all the kiddos, but we were still there doing what we needed to do so that those kids could hear about God. And bringing that back to life here, just remembering that no matter what you are doing, where you're at in your life, what job you have, always try to glorify God in what you're doing and let others see that in you. I think that's it.
I had her go first because ladies first, right? No, she talked about the book that we read, and I knew she was going to do that. And so then, like the first day we were there, one of the songs had a mention of Goliath, and then one of the messages also mentioned Goliath. And so then I kind of spent the rest of the week just observing and thinking about David versus Goliath compared to Jesus washing somebody's feet. And it's just a spectrum of sometimes it's like the biggest thing, you want to do the biggest thing. And so it's just the Goliath of the situation and trying to slay that Goliath. But sometimes you just need to do the small stuff. And it goes unnoticed. Nobody even knows that you did it, but it's just as important. And so I think as we go down through here, you're going to hear some stories of big things that happened that were awesome, and then things that maybe nobody knew about, but they were super important. So just applying some of my week. I was part of the maintenance team, and we spent a lot of time out in the woods where nobody could even see us cutting wood. And so the Goliath of that situation was get the big saw and cut the biggest log you can find. But we still had to take the little logs and drag the brush out of the way, and everything mattered. It didn't matter what part of that job you were doing. It was still important. And then just watching my teammates, the worship team got up on the stage, and the preparation that goes into slaying that Goliath. They had to spend hours being prepared to get up and then being in front of children close to their age who they've never met before, the pressure and the emotions that go with that. And they did an awesome job. And then others who work behind the scenes, the cooks back in the kitchen, the dish pit, is still important. If a kid gets a dirty fork, then they may not want to eat the rest of the week. They may not want to come back to camp because, that's not a clean place, or if their restroom's dirty, or if their food's not cooked. So every single detail is important to God. And everything we did was for God. And last year we talked a little bit about the wilderness and the desert and just getting away from the responsibilities that are pulling on you to be in God's Word. And I would encourage all of you to try to find a way to go on a mission trip, no matter how big or small it is. It's just the way to get away from the responsibilities that you have and just immerse yourself in God, pretty much from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to sleep. You're immersed in God. We had 2 services a day, devotional, then debriefing at night, and then everything we were doing, whether we were playing with a camp kid or whether we were cutting logs or washing dishes or even taking a nap to get some rest so we could have the energy to do what we needed to do, it was all for God. And that's just so much rewarding than money. If they had said, hey, can you come cut these logs and I'll pay you X amount of dollars, I'd have said, nah, I'm not going to be there. But if somebody can lead a person to the Lord because I was there to help, then that there's just a lot of good feelings and feel like you're making a difference in the world. So I'll pass the mic on.
My name is Colin Pope. This was my second year going to Ao-Wa-Kiya. And last year I worked in maintenance, which meant I went around and helped fix things. This year, I got to work in the dish pit, which meant every day before meals, I would go and eat early and then sit in there and wash dishes for about 2 hours, which was fun at times and stressful at other times. We did get to go at the end of the day to what they called campfire, which was their nighttime service. And they also played some games at that time, which is why they call it campfire. And the speaker there talked about fruit the whole time, which I thought was an interesting topic, but he went through all the times that fruit is mentioned in the Bible. And one of the nights he talked about how the Bible mentions you need to prune your grapevines, and he talked about how they prune grapevines. They cut them all the way almost down to the roots so that next year they can grow back fully with good grapes. I thought that was an interesting message to give to middle schoolers because sometimes you have to cut off the bad fruit from your vine, your own personal vine, and it might take some time to let it regrow, and it might seem like you're getting rid of something that's important, but it'll regrow into something which is more important, which is better fruit. So that's something I thought was really good to talk to middle schoolers about and what I learned during the week.
My name's Brevin Mendenhall. This is my actually first time to Ao-Wa-Kiya. Sixth mission trip with the church, I think. I was in the woods with Larry and Caleb, Simon, and Lewis, moving logs, cutting wood and stuff. Back in the woods, you couldn't really see it. So the people that are going to be using the paint, it's a paintball course. So the people that are going to be using it aren't going to see what we did. So, I mean, you don't really need recognition from people. You're doing this work for God. So, yeah. I was also working with the worship team back in the sound booth getting the lyrics ready. And that also doesn't receive much recognition unless you mess up and then you have all the eyes. Like this morning. Also, compliments to the worship team, especially Jenna. She was involved in everything, doing a great job organizing everything, practicing 3 times a day and performing twice, along with the weeks before practice. So, great job. Here you go, Lewis.
I'm Lewis. This is my first time at Ao-Wa-Kiya. I was part of the maintenance and the worship team. The maintenance, what they all said, was just cutting down logs and stuff in a paintball course. Worship was we'd play in the morning for the kids and the evening for the kids. Worship was really fun to be able to lead the kids and stuff, but it was also really tiring because you have a ton of practices and all that stuff. Usually when I'm doing whatever worship or whatever, it's kind of fun for me. I'm like, ooh, this is fun. But at the worship, it was like, it's okay, but I'm kind of really tired and stressed kind of because I had to do good or whatever. And I had to realize it's not about me if I'm doing worship or it's stressful or fun, whatever. It's for the kids and for God. And so I just had to remember that while I was doing the camp and stuff because worship wasn't necessarily fun. But I didn't really think of much to say. That was all.
Hi, I'm Jenna Thompson. This is my 3rd mission trip with the church. This is my 2nd time to Ao-Wa-Kiya. Last year I was in the dish pit, which is always a fun time. And then this year we got a change of pace with running the worship team. And I had the privilege of leading that this year, which was a lot, but I enjoyed it. And I learned that worship is very taxing, and I think that it should be. Every single day we were playing a ton. We were all drained by the end of it, not from exhaustion or from work, but you're pouring yourself out every single day. And we were playing 5 times a day, twice with an audience, and it's a lot. And we planned, we practiced, we did everything, and obviously, as we saw this morning, things don't go as planned, and that's hard for me to learn. I'm a perfectionist. I like things to go well. So this was a good lesson for me. And besides that, I was also on the housekeeping, which means I get these cool vacuum backpacks. I really hope they're in the slideshow, because we were like posing like Ghostbusters and stuff. It was a fun time. But we had to clean after the campers right after we play for them. So sometimes they'd come in and see us just with these big vacuums. And they're like, that's not your job. But it was a fun time. We love getting to go there. And I hope I get to go back. So.
My name's Hallie. This is my 2nd year at Ao-Wa-Kiya. I was also in the dish pit last year. We graduated from that. We got to do housekeeping worship. And I thought that I'd made it out easy by not being in the dish pit, but I've never done something like worship that is so fulfilling but so exhausting at the same time. Just standing for hours and my feet were hurting, just pouring yourself into that so you can give those kids something was amazing, but we were so tired and purposely not getting enough sleep so we could play cards at night, which was a mistake, but I would do it again. And I don't know, it was something that I kind of struggled with during the week with worship. of wondering, like, why am I here? And I've been on teams before, but never a team that worked together so well and that every piece was needed and that we made each other better. Like, each of us could have led worship. We could have brought out a piano or a drum set and sang. It might not have been good, but it would have been worship. And I just came to realize that we're there for each other to give that gift to those kids. Like, we make each other better so we can help those kids be better throughout camp. And just, like, giving that experience was amazing. So.
Hi, I'm Joanna Cook. This is my second year helping at Ao-Wa-Kiya, and I was on the worship team, and I sang for morning and evening sets. I also did housekeeping with Caleb and Andy, Jenna and Hallie. In regards to the housekeeping, the main thing I did was Jenna and I would vacuum the steps. Like she said, we'd wear these really cool Ghostbuster backpacks, and they would get heavy at times, but it made vacuuming a whole lot easier. And we'd also find like little notes and stuff sometimes that the kids left on the steps, just from the teaching time or something like that. Some of them didn't really relate, but it was fun to find those notes. Huge thanks to Andy for organizing all the cleaning stuff. She did a really great job. And then there was worship. The worship we did this past week was really special to me. When I found out that we were going to be the worship team for the camp, I was super excited. Playing for camp was a first for the youth band, and I thought it was so cool that God brought this opportunity. I went into it thinking, this will be great. We'll play morning and evening. We'll play 3 songs. We'll have plenty of practice time beforehand while we're there. Jenna had everything organized, and so I wasn't worried at all. I quickly realized that it was not all that simple. There were times when we had to kind of read the crowd and adjust our song choices accordingly, because Jenna mapped out kind of all that we needed to do, but sometimes it didn't work out the way we thought it would. There were a lot of people throughout the week that had suggestions on how we should do things and what we should play. There were also many times when we as a band were just not in the mood to practice. Things like that aren't necessarily bad, but I did realize that they can cause tension between people and within a person. So when I was thinking about what I would talk about this morning, I knew it would mainly be about worship because that's what affected me the most. The question, what do you think worship is and how does it affect you, came to mind. I realized that I was in the process of answering that question all week. If you asked me that question before the trip, in the middle of the week, and now, I would have given you 3 different answers. However, the conclusion I've come to is this: worship has never been and will never be about the person holding the mic, strumming the guitar, hitting the drums, or playing the keys. God allows us to take part in it, so it is for us, but it is about Him. It's all an act of practicing God's presence, whether alone or with a group of people, through something that we will have for eternity, music. Worship has always held a special place in my heart, and I am always incredibly humbled when God chooses me to lead others in it. I did struggle a lot this past week with relinquishing control to God and trusting Him with the details, but He proved Himself and revealed His power to me time and time again. He broke me and put me back together many times, and although at the time it hurt and I didn't understand, I'm so grateful that He worked that way. It allowed me to grow in Him and adjust my attitude toward worship. So I do want to thank all of you that prayed for us, and I'd like to thank Caleb for organizing the trip and for all the work that he put into helping the worship team and just making the last week a lot of fun. I can't wait till next year and would totally encourage you to take part in a mission trip, especially this one. I have lots of other stories and things I can talk about, but for right now, we'll call that good. Thank you.
I am Mary Jane, and this is my first mission trip with this group, with this church. And I was in the dish pit, which was really fun, and the whole experience was really fun, but it was really humbling to clean mounds of syrup off plates, and it reminded me of the story of Jesus washing the feet, and it was really humbling, and that's it. Here you go, Hope.
I'm Hope Northern, and this is my first mission trip with this church, and I was in the dish pit as well, and I learned that it's not always fun to wash dishes, especially when there's so many. But even if you're like behind the scenes, you're still important. And
I'm Simon Shilto, and this is my first mission trip. I was on the maintenance team and worship band. So for me, I learned a lot of things during the trip, but a big thing that I came away with was just like during worship, I want to be a good example to the kids, and so it was hard for me to get over that, or like, let me rephrase that. So I want to be a good example, but sometimes gets in my head too much, and I start thinking that I'm better than God, if you get what I'm saying. So like, that was hard for me to learn, to just, yeah. You know what? Yeah, that's enough.
Good job, Simon. You did great. Hello, I'm Theresa Thompson. This is my second mission trip, second time to Ao-Wa-Kiya. I want to thank everybody for praying for us while we were gone. I'm not a speaker, I'm not a teacher, but I am willing to go, and I'm grateful that I got to go. I helped in the kitchen again, and there were 4 new ladies there this year, and one of them, Mary, she doesn't live far from the camp, but she's in her late 70s, and she still comes once a week, 1 week a year, every year to serve in the kitchen to help with the cooking and whatever needs to be done. And there's another gal there, Lisa, who didn't live too far, but Wednesday she asked us if anybody in the kitchen crew wanted to walk to Lake Michigan. So last year, I remembered Caleb, we all got up in the vans and drove to Lake Michigan and had a nice afternoon. So I was thinking, walk that? No. But Mary said, I'll go. So I said, okay. I was thinking, if Mary can go, I can go. So Lori and I went with Mary and Lisa. And Julie went too. Yeah. Sorry, Julie. And so it was like a mile and a half. And we went to the lake and got our feet wet and had a nice time and walked all the way back. And it's not Kansas walking. There's lots of hills. But Mary made it and I made it. And she was just so inspiring. I just hope I will still be serving if God wants me to be in my late 70s.
My name is Lori Northern. I too was in the kitchen this week. I had never been in a commercial kitchen, so I was in awe of all the large appliances, and they have a walk-in freezer, and they call it a cooler. It's not a refrigerator, but you can get several people in the refrigerator, and lots of food in there. And I was also amazed at just the quantities of food that had to be made for each meal. Of course, there were a lot of campers there, and with lots of activities, and so there had to be a lot of food. There were several different ladies there in the kitchen, and I just found it interesting. We all come from different denominations, but we were all there for one purpose, and that was to serve God, to feed the kids, but in the name of God, so that they could learn about Christ. It's Christ that unifies us. No matter which walk of life we came from and which denomination of church that we attend at home. And we were just one tiny piece of that puzzle during that week that made everything come together so that those kids could have a good experience at camp.
I'm Andrea Richardson, and this was my second year at Ao-Wa-Kiya and my third missions trip with the church. I've been to many camps and things as a counselor before, but serving in this capacity was just a little different. And so this week, like last year, I spent on the janitorial staff, And last year, I was the only one where, other people filled in definitely whenever I needed help. But this year, I had the worship team in between their sessions of practicing and playing, and so it was so nice to have other people join me and get to take part in that. And they also humored me in my organizational charts and things like that I gave them, so I appreciate that too. But it went really well. And just leading up to this week, I had been reading a book called Soundtracks by John Acuff. And one of the things God was just telling me is during this week, really be present with me. And it's interesting trying to be present when you're by yourself. That's just an interesting concept. And so, what does it look like to be present when you're spending a lot of time by yourself cleaning toilets and sinks and things like that? And, for me, it meant letting go of some of those thoughts that were distracting me and keeping me from really just being present with God and listening to what it was that he was going to teach me. And so in those moments when I'm cleaning the restrooms and things like that, I would start thinking about the campers and praying for them and praying for the counselors. And one of the things we were learning from the directors of the camp is that the girls were just having a really rough week. They were having a lot of difficulties within their cabins and some discipline issues. And so for me, that just meant praying for those counselors and praying for those moments, that there would be reconciliation and just patience for everybody involved, and leaving them notes and letting them know I'm encouraging them in the bathroom and things along those lines, and listening to worship music and really focusing on what it was that God was leading me to learn in that moment. And so it was a great week. A very stretching and tiring week, but a great week.
My name is Caleb Richardson. Got to be the privilege of being the team leader. And we as a church are a very large family. And you've heard these people sharing. I hope when Hallie talked about it explicitly, but we as a congregation are also a team. And mission trips are great because then you get a smaller team and you get to work together intensely. And then even inside of our team, there were smaller teams. There was the kitchen team. There was the maintenance team. There was the worship team that had to work together. And there's two things that I hope you heard as the team was sharing. One is that teamwork, like family, is hard work. You should be intensely proud of the people up here in the hard work they put in. They paid money to go work somewhere. That's, a pretty crazy concept, and gave up a week of their time and paid to go do work. And they worked really hard. With that, just like in your family, there comes tension. When you have to work shoulder to shoulder with people, when you have to work that in those type of intense environments, sometimes there's tension. And it's stretching and it's growing and it's hard, but it's great. And the second thing I hope you heard was how much fun that is. Just like a good, healthy family, one of the best things a good, healthy family does is laugh together. Each day, we ended the day with just I call it our daily debrief, where we just get together, and honestly, the biggest thing that we did was just share your daily highs and lows. What was your favorite thing you did today, and what was your least favorite thing? And while you think that that's just this, what it really is a process where you get to process through your day and share stories and laugh. So I didn't share this because every day it would have been the same thing. My daily high was that time where we get together as this family, as this team that's been working so hard together. Maybe there's been some tensions through the day, but then you get to laugh together. Laugh hard. Almost every night I went to bed, my abs were sore because of laughing at something ridiculous. Typically the teenagers did. They've got great stories, and it's a ton of fun. And that's just like this is just a smaller section of the team. This is something I think we as a church need to keep at the forefront of our mind. Being a part of a Christian team is hard, it's challenging, but it's also intensely fun. That we as Christians have so much to rejoice about, have so much to laugh about. And so let's make sure we do that as a church family. And so I want us to conclude with actually one of the songs that the teenagers did that the campers love, because while they're leading worship, it's also intensely fun. And they're a little nervous about it, and you're all gonna have to stand and participate. So while we all stand up, we'll have those that aren't in the band kind of split on either sides. We'll have you guys stand up. This is a song that we've done as a church before. So you should be familiar with the words, but you may want to spread out and give yourself some elbow room, because Joanna is going to be leading us. The rest of us have seen this a couple of times, so we're going to be attempting to follow Joanna. Joanna is going to have the privilege of leading us in these hand motions. So Caleb, you want to come up? He's an honorary member. He was last year, so he's returned. The Christian life is a lot of fun. We hope you enjoy this. Can we check and see if Jenna's guitar is working? Okay, I'll get a mic stand for her. I got one. Technical dip. Oh.
Boy, oh boy. Wow, we have a guitar, people. Let's go. Okay. We ready? Go for it.
In my wrestling and in my doubts, in my failures, you won't walk out. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. In the silence, you won't let go. In the questions, your truth will hold. Your great love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust the promise. You will carry me safe to shore. Safe to shore. Safe to shore. Safe to shore. I won't fear what tomorrow brings. With each morning I'll rise and sing. My God's love will lead me through. You are the peace in my troubled sea. Oh, you are the peace in my troubled sea. My lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, my lighthouse, I will trust
We just need to give you a little taste of what was happening there at camp, because honestly, it's going to be happening. Hello. Thank you. Thank you all.